Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something that is epic to take a look at. Today we have the largest Dino Dream model, not only from their, brand new, officially licensed products, but it's also the largest Dino Dream Tyrannosaurus Rex that I now have in my collection. We have the sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now this obviously replicates the scene in the Lost World Jurassic Park when they have officially tranquilized the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they are again, preparing to move it onto the ship to take it back to the mainland. You can see that the box art is absolutely gorgeous on this. We've got an image there of the T-Rex all, trapped in that cage, as well as someone up there on the top, kind of, I guess, continuing to strap the T-Rex in and get it prepared. And of course, the Dino Dream logo and Sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex down at the bottom, and Lost World Jurassic Park up there at the top on the right-hand side. Over here on the side, you can see basically some ferns, but up here on the top, you have a sneak peek of the T-Rex model itself. And then the other side has almost the same thing going on, except a different image of the T-Rex. And then the back of the box shows off a whole bunch of images of the Rex, kind of within the cage and everything. Basically just a whole bunch of images of the model itself and information, of course, on the model. So absolutely phenomenal box. They always produce the best boxes, and in fact I would say out of all of the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World type of models that I get that are similar to this, when you look at like Prime 1 or Iron Studios or anything like that, I would say Dino Dream wins it every single time when it comes to the beauty of their boxes. The boxes are honestly on another level of beauty, and I can't think of anybody that can compete with them when it comes to the presentation of their models and the boxes, again, that accompany them. These are absolutely incredible, and the artwork on the boxes is also phenomenal. So let's get this box out of the screen here. I will pop it open, and we'll bring everything in from there. So first of all, here is the cage that goes with this, and look at that. That is very impressive looking. It perfectly replicates the cage that we see the Tyrannosaurus kind of locked up in the Lost World Jurassic Park, and it's also really quite impressive when it comes to the size aspect. Definitely has a pretty good size to it. On top of that, we also have this, which you can see has the Lost World Jurassic Park logo on it. And if you can recall, on the front of the box, if you remember the image there on the front of the box, you have basically the T-Rex kind of covered up as it's tranquilized, I guess helping to keep it warm. And we have that here again, but now instead of just having that kind of like massive blanket basically draped over the T-Rex, we have the Lost World Jurassic Park logo on it, which is, I think, a really cool little addition to this set. And then we've got the T-Rex itself, and man, is that ever cool looking. I am absolutely so happy to have this because I've wanted one of these, Jurassic Park style male Tyrannosaurs from Dino Dream for so long. I've honestly been just aching for them to release one that I could afford, because they did have this really cool one out years ago that was like in that running, that classic running pose that you see on the concept art, I believe it was, and everything. There's a really cool pose for the running T-Rex. Then they had the JP3 color scheme on it, and I always wanted it. It's so expensive because it was like a custom made piece, but I always so desperately wanted to have one from Dino Dream in my collection, and now I thankfully get to have this version in my collection, and it looks honestly gorgeous here. The coloration is so vibrant on it, and the sculpt is so cool having that sleeping version, because you could put this out as just a regular sleeping male Tyrannosaurus, or of course, the entire idea of this model having that, tranquilized version of the male T-Rex from the Lost World Jurassic Park is just insanely cool. And of course, having the cage to go with it is twice as awesome. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this, and we'll check it out from there. So, of course, we are going to begin with the Tyrannosaurus Rex itself, and it is, again, like I said, really well done. You can see the sculpt is absolutely as spot on to a Jurassic Park T-Rex, or I should say a Lost World Jurassic Park male T-Rex that you'll ever see. And again, the head sculpt, it just has that perfect male look to it. Again, it's like kind of stockier, a little bit shorter. It just perfectly replicates that dinosaur. And on top of that, one thing that so many people, so many companies that produce these male Tyrannosaurs tend to forget, if you're replicating the Lost World Jurassic Park one specifically, we have the injuries here on the side of the face. You do see those very obviously in the film, and they are sculpted out and painted on the Dino Dream version, which is just really well done. You can see a whole lot of variation of color here to the face. You have all sorts of variations of greens, lighter and darker. You've also got some yellowish tones, especially there in the palate. You have that slight striping there moving down into the palate. You can also see some variation of color around the eye. The eye is obviously closed as the dinosaur is tranquilized. You can even see some of the osteoderms there kind of highlighted with a yellowish tone there around the eye, as well as running down here, and then some darkening as you lead toward the tip. You've got some kind of black spots applied here and there. Same deal here for the lower jaw as well. So it all looks really, really nice as far as those paint applications go. You can also see up here a little more of the yellow, as well as that striping moving through, and again quite a bit of variation up here to the top of the head. And one thing that I think is really cool about the model, first of all, again, you see the teeth. They're painted with kind of like a yellowish tone, sort of, helping, I think, to give them a little bit of, a dirty type of a look. Obviously, the T-Rex wouldn't be brushing its teeth, but often when you get any kind of a dinosaur in a sleeping position, you'll usually see the teeth kind of sculpted, like coming out, but sculpted into the lower jaw. Whereas with this one, if you look there, you can see the teeth are actually extended out past the lower jaw. So they're obviously coming down from the upper jaw, and coming down around that. So they're not just sculpted into the lower jaw. I don't know if you're understanding what I'm trying to say, because it's a little complicated to describe, but I think they did such a good job as far as that goes. It just adds even more realism to the model. And you can actually see, if you look here on the inside up into the underside of the upper jaw, you can see like reddish or pinkish tones, which shows you that they actually have the gums painted out there on the inside of the mouth as well. And that's such a tiny little spot to take that much care into painting up. Again, you wouldn't expect that, because when you look at the model from the side, you don't see that at all. So it really takes a special kind of company to actually go through with painting something such a small minor detail like the gums there on the inside of the mouth to just make this look, again, as nice as possible. Another thing that's really cool, as you move back here into the neck, and my camera for some reason really doesn't like greenish tones, so I'm going to have to try to hold it a little bit further away, so that, because if we get nice and close, you'll see that, like the tone of my camera changes. I don't know why it does that. But if you head down a little bit there, further into the neck, you'll see, of course, we have the bulkiness to the throat of the T-Rex, and obviously the skin, now that the T-Rex is laying down, the skin is kind of like scrunched out. So that's another thing that when it comes to a male T-Rex from the franchise, you absolutely want to capture, and they have captured that very nicely. And you can see, again, all of the skin wrinkles and skin folds and stuff there in that area look really nice. We also have that lighter tone that you can see kind of leading up here from the lower jaw and, of course, into the throat. And there's even like some slight pinkish tones that you'll see applied there as well, just adding extra variation of color. As you lead back into the neck, you have all kinds of creasing and wrinkling moving down the course of the neck. Even looks like you can almost make out a little bit of muscle definition in the neck. Of course, we have the yellowish tone here moving along the back of the dinosaur, as well as those dark stripes, again, those black and dark brown stripes moving through. We even actually have like some osteoderms, like a line of osteoderms moving down through the course of the T-Rex that have been painted out with a yellow that kind of follows along the back of the dinosaur. Moving down a little bit further, you can see the arm is resting down there on the ground. Again, that as well is sculpted nicely. You can kind of make out the muscle definition in the arm. The fingers are really well done. You can see some scoots running down the fingers, and the nails are painted with a very dark gray. And you can even see, again, variations of greens, even browns and stuff. There's a lot of color added to this Rex to make it look, again, as lifelike and realistic as possible. As you lead up here, you can make out the shoulder blade a little bit. You can also see some variations of browns kind of leading down. You've got some more random areas of like some slight difference in color added, and you can kind of make out the rib cage right there for the T-Rex, which also looks really good. Again, we continue to have that classic male patterning moving down along the spinal column of the T-Rex with, again, those yellows and dark browns and blacks added up there. You can see the hip bone right there, as well as the scoots that follow along it. Another, I would say, trademark of a Jurassic Park style T-Rex. As you lead down through the course of the leg, you can obviously see how the leg is folded up with the T-Rex laying down. It looks really good. Again, the paintwork is just so nice and precise on this, and those greens are so vibrant. You can see how really visually appealing they are. You can also see that there's like a dark wash kind of added. You can really notice it right here in this area where it's kind of highlighting all of the cracks and crevices to the skin of the T-Rex. We've also, of course, got those yellowish tones here moving along the back of the thigh and the back of the calf. You can see the calf muscle bulging, again, with the positioning of the legs. You've also got the darker patterning moving down along the front of the leg, nice striping here, and then, of course, the striping moving down the course of the shin, some spots there in the knee. The knee itself is very nicely sculpted. And on top of that, it's really smooth as far as the application goes. Like, you can see, it doesn't look like paint on a model. It looks 100% like body color. And then as you move down, you've got that absolutely awesome Jurassic Park style T-Rex foot sculpt. Let's see if we can get close without the camera going crazy. You've got the really nice scoots moving down through the course of that foot, down the toes. Again, the nails are painted perfectly with that very dark gray. Just zero sloppiness when it comes to the paintwork on this model. And then as we lead out here into the tail, you start to pick up a little bit of a more intricate, kind of flashier design and patterning moving along the back. We continue to have those yellows, but they're kind of like broken up, whereas they earlier kind of look like a striping. Here they're just kind of scattered, and then you also have those darker tones as well, kind of scattered moving through as you lead out. We do end the tail in a darker tip, and again, that coloration here runs down into the side of the tail. You've got some more random spots kind of leading down. Again, the really nice vibrant greens. You've got those beautiful yellows moving through. There's also a nice curve to the tail as you lead out, and of course, you can even see how, like, with the tail laying down, you can almost see how the skin is kind of stretching out on the sides of the tail a little bit. Just like, that's so impressive to catch little tiny details like that when it comes to the sculpt that I feel like most people, most companies would neglect, whereas Dino Dream has captured that aspect perfectly. As you move along the underside of the T-Rex as well, again, the skin texture looks great. We have that nice light, kind of an off-white tone here for the underbelly, but you also have a really nice pink wash that's been applied. There's even some other areas of like a darker coloration that's been added there, but as you continue to move through, you again lead up here into the stomach and leading up into the chest of the T-Rex, and you can see we absolutely have that perfect style of scaling, again, that trademark style of scaling to a Jurassic Park style T-Rex here for the underside of the T-Rex. Obviously, it's a bit squished down. It's a little flattened right now because of the Tyrannosaur laying down, and you can also see how the skin of the throat is kind of pushed over to the side, and it looks like it's kind of leading from here, pushing over here as the T-Rex is kind of laying on it. And also, the coloration and paintwork of the undersides of the feet is really well done. There is just no laziness when it comes to the paint apps of this Rex. You can see, again, the coloration here. We've got some dark browns here, and even variation of color to the undersides of the feet on top of the light tone. I can also see light hints of pinks, greens, and browns down here for the undersides of the feet. And then, of course, we have the Tyrannosaur sleeping again. You can see from the opposing side of the head, we don't have any of the injuries on this side. You can also see that there is a slight turn to the neck, kind of leading toward its right, just ever so slightly. As you move back, you see a little bit less, again, of the skin kind of scrunched up on this side because the skin's actually kind of laying toward the dinosaur's right, so you don't see it kind of like flattening out toward us over here. You can also see, again, that the skin texture looks phenomenal here. You can really get a better look, I think, at the almost like tensing or musculature here of the neck of the T-Rex on this side. As you lead back, you again see the arm laying down here, but the fingers are in a actually the arm and fingers are in a slightly different position compared to what you see on the opposing side. Again, just adding even more realism and life to the model. It's really cool to see little differences like that, again, because you wouldn't expect the T-Rex's arms to be in exactly the same spot on both sides like you would often see from many other companies,
But again, Dino Dream just adding the tiniest little bits of realism to make their model just stand out so much more. And then as you continue to lead back, again, we've got the leg here, that awesome paintwork here of the leg, and again the way that it's positioned with it laying down, and we also lead out again with the tail. That is absolutely one of the single best male Tyrannosaurs now in my collection, potentially the best overall. And then we've also got the cage that the Tyrannosaur is placed in, and again, it sports that nice grayish tone, exactly as it appears in the film. We've got that little area here where you would want to put the head of the T-Rex into to, again, trap it and keep it contained. And then as you move back, you can see that the actual fine detail looks pretty nice as you move through, definitely capturing, again, the likeness of this perfectly. And you can even see that there's like a little light or something here on this side that is painted out. It's given a bluish tone. So even the tiniest of details on this have again been painted out to look just like it does in the film. If we turn it around here, it's a pretty big cage, so I just want to be careful. And you can see that the door opens right there, but we'll, of course, get to that here in a moment. But you can see, again, the cage looks great on this side as well. And, of course, we also, again, have that little light or something up here that is painted out as you move through. But as I was just mentioning, the doors open here for the cage. And, of course, that can happen on both sides. Both doors open. So you can open that up to make it a little bit easier to get your T-Rex in. Or, of course, display it maybe with one of the doors open. That's really up to you. And then we also have, for the underside, yes, I do have it on the correct side, you can see Dino Dream, Tyrannosaurus, and cage set, the sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex, as well as my limited edition number, because this is a limited edition, so if you do want to get it, you absolutely need to order it right away, because I can see this one easily and very quickly selling out. And then we've also got this, which again has that Lost World Jurassic Park logo beautifully printed on it. Again, it's that kind of like it's just like a sheet that you would want to put over your T-Rex to sort of give it that kind of blanketed look. The opposing side just has a dark green, so I guess you could technically use that side if you would prefer to not have the logo showing, but I will definitely be displaying mine with the logo side up because I just think that's a really cool way to display it and, of course, show off what film this scene takes place in.
Also, I wanted to point something out a moment ago when I was doing my closer look. I actually said there were no injuries. There is actually one slice right here with a little bit of, of course, reddish paint. It's painted out on this side of the face of the T-Rex. So there are actually injuries on both sides, just obviously there are more on the other. But as far as a size goes, I, of course, want to measure this before I put it in the cage. So for a length, you were looking at about 16, I would say a little over 16, maybe heading towards 16.5 inches, but not quite there, or about the 41, maybe a little over 41 centimeters in length for a height. You're not going to get a whole lot because, of course, it's laying down, but about just a little under 2 3/4 inches or around 7 centimeters. And then, of course, if we move the T-Rex out of here and then bring in the cage is pretty big. So, I'm not really sure how to get this measurement exactly. Maybe we'll just slide through the cage, actually. I guess we could do that. Just keep going right through the center of the cage, all the way from one side to the other. So you are looking at about, this is actually now in my way, so I would say about 16.5 inches or around just a hair under 42 centimeters in length for the cage as well. But I do want to get the T-Rex inside, of course, before we do any size comparisons. I just feel like when the model's complete, that's probably the best way to do it. There is a little sheet of paper here that actually tells you how to put the T-Rex into the model here so that you don't scratch anything up as far as the paintwork of the T-Rex or anything, because it is a resin model, so of course if you're a little rough with it, you could very easily scratch the face of the model and everything, so you don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, follow these instructions, get my T-Rex loaded up inside the cage, and we'll take a look at it from there. So there we go. We have our T-Rex now caged up and obviously tranquilized and looking absolutely awesome. I think it just looks so cool. Now you can kind of slide it back and forth. The area where it's a little bit tight, I think, when it comes to the T-Rex and then moving through is right here. You just have to be very careful. So you can kind of get it in. There's just like this pole coming down, but you can get it in and out without the use of the bag. But the bag is actually pretty handy, as mentioned in those instructions, to make sure that you don't mess the model itself up. But it looks, again, incredibly epic once it's actually put within the cage. So let's go ahead, as far as a size comparison goes, and bring in Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the collect a human being here next to our T-Rex. And you can see the T-Rex absolutely has an impressive size. It is 1/30th scale, I believe, so it's definitely going to have a pretty good size. Obviously, it would be a bit larger than Mr. Papo Rex, who I think is 1/35th scale or somewhere within that area. So definitely a little bit larger, I would say, would be this, again, Dino Dream version of the T-Rex. For another comparison, we have a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus. This one's going to be a little tricky because I don't feel like there is a good model that can compare with this one because it's just so different. You know, you don't have very many sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex models, so there aren't really many out that would compare well with this. Especially when it comes to Jurassic Park style Tyrannosaurs, because this is the only one that I have when it comes to this type of a look. But for another comparison, and I'll tell you what, it was a little complicated just to find that perfect spot to compare these two, but we have the Nanmu original release of the T-Rex. Now these two I think are very similar in size when it comes to like the scale. I think the Nanmu version was also supposed to be 1/35th scale, but it looks like it might have actually been a little bit larger, as it's probably closer to 1/30th scale, as it does size pretty nicely with the Dino Dream version of the T-Rex. Obviously very different as far as the pose goes, but the body mass, the head size, the length, everything is pretty similar between these two, just obviously very different when it comes to the positioning. Then even though we don't have the actual Lost World Jurassic Park coloration on this version, we have one of the Nanmu versions of their male Tyrannosaurus, and you can see that the male version from Nanmu is a little bit bigger than what you see here for the Dino Dream versions. So obviously the Nanmu version is a little bit larger. That means the Dino Dream version, if you have the Nanmu version, they won't scale correctly to each other, but they do look pretty cool next to each other. Just imagine if a different male Rex happened to stumble upon this situation occurring, maybe a slightly older, a little bit bigger version, and it just comes walking in, kind of checking the place out, like, what's going on here? It does actually have almost like that perfect positioning for that sort of scene to take place. We've also got the older W Dragon version of the male Tyrannosaurus Rex here as well. And again, you can definitely see now the Dino Dream version is a bit larger, which I believe the W Dragon version was 1/35th scale. So now you can again see how the Dino Dream version is definitely again a little bit larger than your average 1/35th scale T-Rex, because again, the W Dragon version is definitely a little bit smaller here. And then for one final comparison, we have the largest Dino Dream Tyrannosaurus that I had prior to this, which you can very clearly see is a pretty humorous comparison because there's a huge size difference between these two. But I did want to bring this one in because I felt like if you have the original older versions of the T-Rex from Dino Dream, this comparison might be one of the most impressive that you could get, because you can obviously see there is a pretty big difference between what we previously had from Dino Dream when it comes to the T-Rex and their mass-produced models compared to what we have now with this brand new sleeping T-Rex. So this brand new Dino Dream Jurassic Park, or I should say Lost World Jurassic Park, again officially licensed male sleeping Tyrannosaurus, is absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, I cannot even begin to stress that enough. This thing is phenomenal. The coloration on it looks so nice. They've just added so much variation of color to this one. Probably one of the most impressive paint jobs I've seen from Dino Dream, although I will say everything that they've been producing with the new officially licensed models has been off the charts when it comes to the paint apps. We've had quite a few models now with their Pteranodon, the Velociraptors, the Compsognathus, and now this T-Rex, and every single one has been a complete home run, if you ask me. And yet again, they've absolutely ticked all of the boxes when it comes to what you would want to see on a male T-Rex. You've got the really nice yellowish tones moving down along the back. You've got the gorgeous greens along the side. You even have the injuries on the face, which is something that's very important when it comes to this T-Rex. You have the enlarged kind of throat skin there that's kind of smushed down as it's laying down, you know, perfectly showing the movement of that area of the T-Rex and the way that it would be kind of laying there on the base, which is just great on the part of Dino Dream. And again, the paintwork is so impressive, as I mentioned earlier. Little things like the gums being painted and everything on the inside of the mouth is what really just blows my mind with this brand new Dino Dream release. On top of that, the entire idea of just generally having a sleeping version of a male Tyrannosaurus is really cool. I think it's just something that you don't see enough, but actually taking that scene from the Lost World Jurassic Park of the T-Rex tranquilized and giving us this version of it is just insanely cool, because again, it's something that nobody, to my knowledge, has created previously. I do not ever remember seeing anyone create a model that depicted this scene, so to have one come from Dino Dream is really cool. And although I really am hyped for the potential of them releasing, like a male or female Tyrannosaur in like a running pose or something. I know they have that really big model that's actually posed the same way as the small Dino Dream one I had just shown off that's coming out, but that's kind of like the bronze version. I would really love to see like a regular painted version of a T-Rex coming from them at some point in the future when it comes to like, a walking or running version. But this again is just so cool because it's a scene that, again, as I said, I've never seen depicted in model form, and they've just replicated it so perfectly. The cage itself as well is really nicely done, nicely sculpted, perfectly replicating what you do see when it comes to the cage that it's contained in the Lost World Jurassic Park, and also really nicely painted, so that as well is really cool. The articulated doors is also neat because it allows you to pose it with the door open or closed, and again, of course, it makes it easier for you to get your T-Rex in there, which would be pretty tough without the ability of opening the doors. And then you also have that sheet that you can kind of hang over the T-Rex to give it that kind of blanketed look, but also with the Lost World Jurassic Park logo on it. That's just the icing on the cake, if you ask me. So if you are interested in picking one of these up for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that, which is exactly where I purchased mine on Lana Time Shop. So make sure you check that link, go grab this amazing release before it sells out, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.